Hello and welcome back to Gearhead Geeks, where in this video we are going to inspect the clutch on our WR450. Although this doesn't look like a WR450, it has a WR450 motor in it. It's a street tracker with a cycle factory frame and carbon wheels and Seriani forks and all hand-built stuff. So that doesn't matter. It has a WR450 motor in it, and it's basically stock. So what we're going to do is we are going to disassemble the clutch, measure things, put it all back together, make sure everything is perfect, and if it needs new parts, we have new parts right here ready to go. The clutch works well. It's time to look at it, and we'll go from there. So stay tuned, and here we go. So to get started, what we really need to do here is do a few things. We are going to go on ahead and make sure we have a clean oil pan. I always like to make sure it's clean in case something weird comes out and you want to see what it is. You don't want it mixed in with other stuff. We also have a fresh gasket set, and we have a clutch replacement kit. This has got all the metal plates in it. This is from Caltrick. It's had very, very good reviews, so we're going to go with that. If you don't know if you haven't got a clutch replacement kit that didn't have good reviews, try and go with the OEM. It's always, you're never going to go bad with OEM. This got good reviews, so we'll try it. It's not hard. A clutch job is not hard to do. Then, what we also need to understand is what kind of clutches this is. So let's get into a little bit of theory about it. There are different types of clutches in motorcycles. The most common clutch is a wet multi-plate, which means there's multiple plates inside the clutch and it's wet. And what I mean by wet, it is soaking in oil. Two different types of bikes use this. Two strokes have a wet multi-clutch, and pretty much all of them do. Four strokes, most of the Japanese, most of the Italians, other than Ducati, have some dry clutches. But what they do is, and in just most of the other brands have a wet multi-clutch system. Some Harleys have a dry clutch, or they have a wet clutch, but it has separate oil. And the reason I mention this is because in most bikes, and like in most Japanese 4-cylinders, 1-cylinders, whatever, on 4 strokes, they mix the transmission oil along with the engine oil and the clutch. So all three of them share that oil. So the thing about a clutch is clutches do wear, and they do leave behind debris. Not a lot, but they leave behind debris. So all that oil that your engine requires for the cams and the bearings and all that stuff is also getting polluted by the clutch. So having a clutch that's slipping or things like that, that causes more garbage to go into your oil, so you have to be careful of that. 2 strokes, on the other hand, are a little bit different. They only have the clutch and transmission. The engine oiling for the crankshaft and the pistons is all done separately, either by premix or an injection pump or something like that. But the engine part of it does not share the oil with the transmission. If it does, and there's a seal bad, the thing will smoke like crazy. But anyway, so that's the different types of clutches that are out there. We are dealing with the most common type, which is a wet multi-plate clutch. So that's the most common. So we will go on ahead and get to taking this thing apart so you can see what's going on. So to get at this clutch, many bikes have just one cover to cover up the clutch. And in a lot of cases, in this particular case, there's a Kickstarter, but a lot of them don't even have a Kickstarter. So you would have to remove the whole case going all the way around. And usually it's not a big deal. The Yamaha here is pretty nice because it's got this smaller cover that you can remove and get at the clutch and without having to remove all this other stuff, which makes it pretty nice. So to do that, what we do here is you can drain the oil, but what we're going to do is we're going to see, because this is sitting so high, we don't need to drain all the oil, and it's got fresh oil in it. We'll go ahead and pull this cover off, and whatever drains out, we'll catch it, look at it, make sure everything's okay, and then once we're done, we'll refill. So getting these off is fairly easy. You just wind them off. These are 6mm screws with 8mm heads, which seems to be the most common these days. Okay. We'll put that in place right here. Now what we can do here is I'm going to take a mallet and just give these things a bit of a tap and see if we can get this cover to kind of pop off. And it looks like it's going to without any issue whatsoever. Yeah, there's just... And if the gasket comes off with it, just fine. That would be good too. And it looks like it just might. So it looks like our gasket is going to come off, and we're probably not going to have to replace it. I can see that there's a little bit of Yama bond right here about and what they do is that where things look like they might leak or whatever, they put a little bit on there, but that's pretty much factory stuff. So that's great. And here is our clutch. And the way the clutch works is, well, first of all, we're going to remove this pressure plate. This is a pressure plate, and what does happen with this is, I don't know if you can see it on camera, but I'm going to go pull the clutch lever and watch this plate move. And what this is doing is taking and relieving the pressure from this plate, from the clutch pack. And so all clutches pretty much do this. And let's see if we can see it. You might be able to see it a little bit. One in, I pull the clutch, I let it out, pull the clutch. Oh yeah, it moves quite a bit. Probably moves 1/8 of an inch. And that's relieving the pressure from these plates. So what we need to do is we are going to remove the screws on the pressure plate. Now, in this particular instance, actually it's better. Yamaha set it up so you can either use a 10mm or you could use a Phillips screwdriver. We're going to use a 10mm. So we'll take our socket here and we'll just pop these guys loose. All we got to do is just back them off. And you notice we didn't lose any oil. So that makes life a little bit easier on this. Many bikes, the oil will come out, so be prepared for that. And if you ever notice that when you change the oil on your motorcycle, it has a peculiar smell. And what that smell is your clutch. And it doesn't matter, you know, no matter what, if you use the clutch, you're going to end up with a little bit of smell. Okay, so this is the inside of our pressure plate. And this is what squeezes against all of these plates in here. So what I'm going to start doing here is disassembling this clutch. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to pull these plates and we'll keep them in order, and we're going to do some measuring on it to see if they need, you know, if they should be replaced. And we'll put the clutch plates down here so we're not getting anything dirty here. Okay. So as they come off, we'll put them down. And the more that come off together, the better. Okay, so they have all pretty much come off together. And let's talk about what's happening with the clutch. So how does a clutch work? Well, it's pretty simple. If we look here, this outer basket here, and that's what it's called, a basket, is what's connected to the engine. And if I were to turn this over, I don't know if I can do it, but I should be able to. Yeah, you can see it. With me turning it over, you can see this outer basket turns, but the inner basket is basically free from that. It turned with it just because there's a little bit of friction, but it's basically free from that. The inner basket is what hooks to the transmission. This is the transmission main shaft coming through. There's a counter shaft going through, and so this is what's hooked to the transmission. This is what's hooked to the engine. So with that being said, what happens here is this pressure plate that sits on here will end up, well, let's go back a little bit. These outer plates, the fiber plates interconnect with the outer basket, and they have no connection whatsoever to the inner one. They turn with the outer basket. The steel plates, on the other hand, connect with the inner basket, and they have no connection to the outer basket. But what ends up happening here is these plates, when they're all stacked together, this pressure plate and the springs that push in against these go on ahead and put pressure on those plates, and they start to stick together. And when they start to stick together, they start transferring power from the outside, from this clutch basket, to the inside. And that's really all that it does. So this guy sits on here, and it's squeezing via these springs, It's squeezing these plates all together, and it's transferring power. When you pull the clutch, this pressure plate pushes out, and when it pushes out, it releases the pressure on those plates, and it will release the engine from the transmission. And you can rev it, you can do all the things that you normally need to do. So that's really all the clutch is doing. Now, some of the problems you can have if you have trouble putting it neutral, it could mean that the clutch is dragging, and it could be that it's out of adjustment and it's not releasing enough. Or the oil is so thick in there that the clutch is not releasing. And the reason I say if you have trouble putting into neutral, you have dogs inside the engine. And if there's pressure on those dogs, it's really hard to press for them to come and disconnect from each other. And what ends up happening is if your clutch is dragging, it keeps pressure on those and you can't hardly find neutral. And if the clutch is working well, that pressure is relieved, and then you can find neutral fairly easy. You will notice that sometimes if you have trouble finding neutral when your engine's cold, but when it heats up, it's okay. And that's because the oil's thinned out a little bit and it's not dragging so much. So anyway, as you see, it only took a few seconds, a minute or two, to disassemble a clutch, get that all done, and we're pretty much there. Now, what we do want to do next is we need to go measure the clutch plates themselves. Now, from what I can see here, this clutch does not look worn in any way, shape, or form. It really doesn't. It looks like it's got plenty of material on it. These plates are, the steel plates are almost like new. So we may have to rethink if we want to, if we need to replace the clutch. Is it one of those things while we're in there, should we do it? Well, maybe, maybe not. If the clutch really isn't slipping and it's just tire slip, well, it's tire slip. But we'll go on ahead. We'll measure. We'll see how we do. We'll see if it's worthwhile to put these new ones in there. And maybe we'll just do it anyway. We'll put them in and see if it cures our problem. But we do need to go ahead and measure the clutch. So I'm going to go get a manual, and we will then go on ahead and look and see what the measurement should be. We'll measure these guys up, see what it does, see what it says, and if they're worn enough, well, that's enough reason to do it. It could be that these plates are just, this is a 2006 motorcycle. So this, and it's been ridden. It's never really sat for any length of time. It sits during the winter, but it's, you know, it does get ridden. I mean, I bought the engine used, and since I've had it, I've probably put, I don't know, 6,000-7,000 miles on it. And so, you know, and the clutch is getting pretty abused. It's, you know, it does wheelies and all sorts of good stuff. So we'll see. So I will grab the manual, and we'll take a look at the measurement. I got to sort through the manual. I should have done that first. We'll look at the manual, and then we'll start measuring the plates and see how it goes. So I have found the manual, and I don't think you're going to be able to read this, but basically our friction plate thickness is 2.92 millimeters to 3.08 millimeters. And the minimum it can be, that's the limit, is 2.8 millimeters. So what we're going to do is we're going to measure each of the plates using a set of vernier calipers, and we will then see where there is on it. Like I said before, it does look like those plates are almost new condition, so I got a feeling we're not going to see much wear at all. First, we'll start with the innermost plate. And the innermost plate, so we'll set up our calipers here, and we're going to measure. And I'll get this. And whoops, let me get the right spot. And we are at 3.08 millimeters. 3.7, 3.8. That plate is absolutely like new. Okay, so with that being said, we will go on ahead and we will take and get this guy off of here. And let's go look at our next one. Let's see what it says. And our next one says 3.0405, so it's got a small amount of wear on it. Okay, we'll go to the next one. And what does this say? 3.08. Okay, and we'll take this next one. And we are at 3.08. And we'll look at the next one. And 3.078 right in there. And we'll look at the next one. And we are at 3.09, 3.089 right in there. And we'll look at the next one. And this one is about 3.07. And we'll look at the next one. And we are at 3.05, 3.06. No, it's showing up 3.08 right in there. So basically, this clutch is in perfect condition. It has got almost no wear on it. And okay, so After measuring all the plates, we have determined that this clutch is in like new condition, which I did suspect it to be. So maybe my slippage is something else, but it sure doesn't seem to be the clutch. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this clutch back together like this. It's a waste of money and time to put in new plates, and well, I may have to rethink that. Let's take a look. Okay, well, let's do another thing. Let's take a look at our clutch springs, and maybe our clutch springs need to be replaced. We don't know. So in this, the standard length of our spring is 50 millimeters, and if it's 49 is the limit. So we'll go on ahead and let's measure this guy, and we'll make sure that we're on that. And we are at 49.8, so it looks like that is a good spring. Let me get another one here. 49.8-ish. Get another one. Measure it. And you can't put any pressure on these when you measure. You have to do it very gently. 49.9. 49.7. 49.5-ish. Well, let me get this a little straighter. Let's see if that's better. Yeah, 49.5. And now 49.6. So the springs are really in good shape also. They're not above the limit. So our clutch is in good shape. So what we're going to do here is we are just going to go on ahead and we will reassemble it, and it will be, this video will be about checking the clutch. Our clutch is in good shape. Now there's a couple things that you do need to be aware of. So while we're here, we're going to look at it, is in this area right in here, and there's going to be where the clutch is hitting, these outer plates are hitting up against this hub, or up against the basket. And if you have excessive wear in here where there's notches and sharp edges, what can happen is the clutch plates wear into that, and then when you go to release it, they're kind of stuck in those grooves, and the clutch doesn't want to release well, and that really makes it hard to put it in neutral. Or you'll notice that when you first put it into gear, and you pull in the clutch and you put it into gear, it wants to lurch forward, and that can be caused by these having deep grooves in here. There's a little tiny bit of grooving on this, but it's very, very smooth, and it's very, very slight. It's probably only a thousandth or two. And you can also get grooves on the inner basket, but that's pretty uncommon. Most of any grooves will end up on here. This one is in pretty good shape. So our clutch is in great shape. We really just need to, we've checked the springs. Now, if your clutch is dragging and your clutch is adjusted properly, what can happen is these metal plates can warp. And if they warp, they kind of act like a big spring. And what they will do is, once you try to release the clutch, it gives it a spring action, and it's still making the clutch bind up a little bit. So it will make it very hard to find neutral, and it will also want to lurch forward when you put it from neutral into first or whatever gear. It just wants to lurch forward. So that's something to be aware of when if your clutch is acting that way. Other than that, there's really not much going on in the clutch. It's a fairly simple deal. So what we're going to do is we're going to reassemble this clutch. whether it was with new plates or the old plates, it really doesn't matter. There is a couple little methods that you have to understand when you do put together a clutch. Now, in this particular clutch, the back there is a, on the back of the pressure plate basket, there is a smooth surface that a clutch plate can go up against. If there is, you're going to be able to put a fiber plate up against it. Some of them have only got teeth and then just some little ridges. And then what's going to happen there is there will be a thicker metal plate that you'll put there first so that the fiber plate has something to run up against. The fiber plates must have a surface to rub up against. They are not strong enough to hold that. And although it seems like it would work, it will fail, and you'll end up with pieces of clutch material in your oil, and there's all sorts of problems that go along with that. So in this case, we've got a nice surface for it to go up against, so we can put in our first plate. And we will put it in and we'll slide it back. Very simply. Now you're going to put in a steel plate. And these steel plates are stamped from the factory. And what they do is there's a round edge where they stamped it, and there's a sharp edge where the stamping came through. Whenever you put these back together, now one of the things that you also have to do, if these are brand new plates, you need to oil the plates. You don't need to soak them overnight. That was some ridiculous thing from a manufacturer that had plates that weren't that well constructed, and I won't mention any names, but the way that they tried to fix that, or said to fix it, is to soak the plates overnight so that at least they would release a little bit when they were new and not worn in. But on OEM plates and good quality plates, all you need to do is squirt it with a little bit of engine oil and you're good to go. Just all the plates, just get some oil around it and it's fine. These are oily because we just took them apart. We haven't wiped them off. There's no need to. The oil is clean and fresh and smells good because it just got replaced about 100 miles ago, even less. But what you want to do is when you put these plates back in, remember I said there's a stamp part, so you'll feel a round edge and then you'll feel a sharper edge. You want the sharper edge to be to the outside. I have, of all the service manuals I've read over the years and over the last 50 years, or 55 years or whatever it's going to be, I have seen in several places where they say the sharp edge goes out. Some manuals don't say anything, but when you see them come from the factory, and I have replaced over my lifetime and working in a motorcycle shop for a dozen years, I probably replaced more than 100 clutches, and never once have I ever seen a bike come through without the sharp edges pointing out. So that's just the way they do it. So we've put in a metal plate. We'll go on ahead and put in another fiber plate. And the thing is that it doesn't really matter the order. It's not going to make any difference. The clutch will break in the first time you use it, basically. But see, so we just go metal, fiber, metal, fiber. Now some clutches have rings in between the metal plates and underneath the fiber plates. And what that does is it helps release the clutch. It kind of springs the plates apart, and it helps that clutch release. In this case, this doesn't have it. So we'll just continue on putting our clutch plates in. Again, they're already oiled. There's no problem. I'm getting oil all over my hands doing this. And we just put them in the way that they came out. I mean, they don't have to be, again, they don't have to be the exact order. It's just that fiber plates go in, fiber plate, metal plate, sharp edge out, and just put them in. Now, some other clutches, as we go along, are going to have, especially when you get out toward the end, there might be some differences in the size of the plates, the thickness of them. they have to pay special attention to that. Kawasaki's sometimes have a clutch plate that you put it in, and then the last plate is indexed over a little bit, and there'll be an indentation for that last plate to go in. So you have to be aware of those types of things. So when you take it apart, make sure you look for those things, and it always helps to consult the service manual. And again, sharp edge out, we're just putting our plates in, another plate goes in, and another plate goes in, and another plate goes in. All right, so our clutch is complete. Here, this is a push rod, and on this particular push rod, it has a bearing inside there and a washer, so you have to make sure that that stuff is in place. Now this is good because it's all clipped together, so this is just kind of one piece. Put it in there, and this is what pushes against the pressure plate. This is what the handle and the cable operation pushes against. There's many different types of pushers. This one has a lever that pushes out against a rod. Some of them have a screw type affair on the other side, and when you pull on the cable, it screws it in, and that is something to be dealt with. Now, the next thing we need to do is put on our pressure plate. And the pressure plate here is, some pressure plates are indexed. And if they are indexed, you will find that there'll be a marking in here somewhere that has some sort of a marking on it, usually a stamped in hole, and then there'll be a marking on the pressure plate to index that. And that's very important. If they are not indexed and they're supposed to be, your clutch will never work. You'll put it all together and you think, oh yeah, it's all great, but what ends up happening is there's teeth in here that don't align in here, and they hold the clutch out. And again, you just have to make sure that there is no indexing. I don't see any here, and the only thing is there's something on the inside, but I think that's just a regular casting mark. So normally if there was going to be something, there'll be something on the outside that you can see. So what we're going to do here is we're going to put this on, and we'll know, and it just popped right in. I can feel right there, it's already seated down, and no matter what position I put it in, it'll be fine. So now the next thing is just put in your springs. Okay, and on most Japanese clutches, you don't have to work too hard at this. You don't have to compress any springs. You can just get the screws started. And you have to compress these a little tiny bit maybe. And getting the spring started is no real big deal. And always do them by hand. Do not use a tool. If you do, you're going to strip those out and you will be sorry. Get them all started by hand and make sure they wind in. If they don't wind in, make sure the threads are in good shape. If somebody's been in there before and screwed it up, because you will find them like that, especially if you had you bought a used bike or something of that nature, you will find that somebody has cross-threaded them or done something. So you got to be really, really careful of that. As we go through, we're just getting these started by hand. And what we'll do is we will go on ahead and I'll look up the torque for these. And we will wind them down with a power tool, but we won't put any torque on them, and we will torque them with a regular torque wrench. So, starting with our power tool, just gently wind them down. So we're going to wind them in a little bit. You can see how easy it's going. I only went about halfway. We'll just go nice, and we'll just kind of work our way around and evenly tighten them up. It's not that important that they're even, but it's just the right way to do things. And I'm just winding it in. I'm not even making the wrench click. I'm just winding it in until it just stops. And basically these are just almost just finger tight. Okay, so we're all wound in. So now what we need to do is I'm going to look up our torque spec and let's see what it says. Probably, hopefully it's right here. Gasket down. Okay, and the clutch springs, and it is 7.2 foot-pounds. So we will go on ahead and get a torque wrench and put 7.2 foot-pounds on each of those. And that will, and here we are, we've got our torque wrench out. And we'll just set this for 7, and that'll allow us to get close. And then with this torque wrench, you get to see the actual torque that you're getting. So we'll take this, and 7.2 is not a lot of foot-pounds. And let's see if we can find can we see the torque? Yeah, we can see it. Okay, so we're just going to go here, and we're at 6.5, and 7.2. 5, 7.2. Okay, and we'll go back over here, and we're going to go to 5, 6, 7.2. 5, 6, 7.2. And let's see here. Is this one it? Yeah. 5, 6, 7.2. And 5, 6, 7.2. Okay, and I'm just going to run around, make sure I've got them all. Yep. Yep. I can feel it. Yep. Yep. And lastly, there we go. We are all set. So everything's been torqued properly. We've got the 7.2 foot-pounds. Now, since everything is back together, what I'm going to do is clean this gasket surface. And this thing is, yeah, the best thing to do would be replace it, but this is a good gasket. There's no reason to replace it. It's coming off, it came off with absolutely no weirdness whatsoever. And I'm going to wipe this down, and you can even see on the surface that there's no gasket material on it whatsoever. It is just clean as a whistle. Okay, so that's that. All cleaned up. We can now take this case and pop it back on. Then we're going to do the same thing with our bolts here. We're going to wind them down, and then we'll torque them properly. And again, and the clutch cover again uses 7.2 pounds because it's 6 millimeter. These are 6 millimeter bolts. So just find where they're sticking out, maybe close to a ½ inch, and that's about right. You'll see how that goes. This one's a long one, and the rest of these, this one's a little bit longer. So these go down here. This one's a bit longer. These two are short. Okay, and we will go on ahead and we'll take and wind these guys down, just like we did with our clutch plate. Oop, I guess I could put the right one on there. And gentle, 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 and gentle. All right. And so what we'll do here is we'll grab our socket and we will do our 7.2. We need to turn it back on. And still set for 7. And we're going to go 7.2. About 180 degrees from there. 7.2. About 180 degrees from there. 7.2. And 180 degrees from there. 7.2. And 180 degrees from there. 7.2. 180 degrees from there. 7.2. And 180 degrees from there ish. 7.2. And that one's already done. This one's already done. 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 And done. Okay. Make sure. Yep. All done. So we have gone on ahead and we have removed the cover. We've removed the clutch, inspected it, measured everything. Everything's in good shape. We'll go on it. We put it back in, put it back together, torqued everything properly, and it's done. Job done. It was just that simple. So that's it for how a clutch works on most every motorcycle. This one was particularly easy because of this cover. This cover really made it easy. Most of them are a lot harder because of the gasket, but this has got that. This bike is a dirt bike, and this particular one is also made to be out in the deserts and whatnot. And if you have a clutch problem or you have to do a repair, these are made so that you can work on them without having to replace every single part in there, the gaskets and so on and so forth. So it's made to be taken apart and put back together. Yeah, eventually you have to replace the gaskets, but if it's in perfect condition, this thing isn't going to leak. It's going to be just fine. So we're going to call it good, wipe off our greasy fingerprints, and we are good to go. So now what we need to do is make sure our clutch is properly adjusted. And that's a fairly simple operation. What you need to do, and we'll take our camera and we will work our way over to the side over here. And on the WR, here, let's just see if we can get a better view of things. What you want to do is make sure you've got enough slop in your level. And you have to also make sure that you have whatever actuating mechanism you have, there has to be a little bit of play in there, because if it's tight, the clutch will slip. Now, the one thing that you do have to be aware of is that when the clutch heats up, it will expand. Just like anything, everything expands when it heats up, almost everything. And when those clutch plates do expand, it's pushing against those pressure. It pushes against the pressure plate, and it pushes out that pressure plate a little bit. And what ends up happening is you'll experience more slack in your clutch, and that's normal. You don't want to adjust that out when the clutch is hot, because if you do, when the clutch is cold and it sets back, the clutch will end up slipping. So whenever you adjust the slack in your clutch, whatever mechanism there is, if there's a screw mechanism with a screw in it, and they tell you to bring it in till it touches and then back it off a little bit and tighten it down. That's one way. In this particular one, there's no other adjustment other than the cable. So I have to make sure there's just enough slop in this so that there's play in the clutch cable. It's loose and it's relaxed. but never adjust it when it's hot. Always do it when it's cold. Because if you do when it's hot, you're going to find that the clutch slips, and when the clutch slips, you end up with more clutch material in your oil, yada, yada, yada. So make sure of that. Okay, so we have gone on ahead and we have removed the cover. We have disassembled the clutch. We have measured the plates. We made sure everything is okay. We went on ahead and put everything back together correctly, torqued everything correctly, and adjusted the play in the clutch itself. So that is all you really need to know about the clutch. It's the few little differences there are with whether it be how they're adjusted or things like that. And you have to refer to a service manual because one size does not fit all. Some of them have a worm gear device that goes in them. Some have a lever. Some of them have a pull lever on them. But in any case, no matter what, there has to be some play in that, just the tiniest amount, so that, because if there's not, the clutch will slip. So hopefully this was helpful, and we will see you next time. Please don't forget to subscribe and like and comment. So we'll talk to you next time.